Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Post to Post. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you stopping by. We're talking NHL logos, but not primaries. We're talking secondary logos. It's a very interesting topic because some teams don't actually have a technical secondary logo. So there are a bit of rules that I've had to put in place here for this ranking. So please don't skip ahead. The rules are important because it's going to qualify how I did my ranking. But before I do that, I was looking at my analytics again, and again, over 65% of you guys who are return viewers are not subscribed. So if you're coming back for more hockey content, you like the quality, and you at least like some of what you see, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. We're on the road to 50,000 this year, and if we get to 50,000 by the end of the year, I'm going to do a hair reveal for the first time in over 2,000 videos. I'm also going to dye my hair blue. Lofty goal, but we're going to try and do it 14,000 away. Anything you do to help me? I'd really appreciate that. So the rules behind this are a little complicated, but I had to create them, okay? It's just there's no other way around it. I'll get through them quick. Some teams don't have secondary logos that are official. Like they don't have secondary logos at all, but they do have Wordmark logos that are a part of their actual current brand. So I've qualified those Wordmarks as being secondary logos. I've bumped them up from Wordmarks to secondary logos. The first team I'm going to show is, as an example, is Montreal. So Montreal does not have a secondary logo. They have a Wordmark, so I've made their Wordmark logo, the current one, be their secondary logo for this specific video. Now, obviously, that complicates things a little bit. The other complication is some teams have more than one actual official secondary logos. Vancouver, for example, has 3 current secondary logos. So in that situation where a team had more than one, I chose my favorite. And then, so I've got one from every team using those 2 rules, and I've ranked them based on what I've been given. So 32, we're going to go in reverse order, 32 to 1, my least favorite to favorite. Let's get it done. Starting off with number 32, it's actually the Montreal Canadiens. It's my favorite team, and I've ranked it low because it's a Wordmark, and it's not. That's tough. Like that's part of this process that is frustrating. I don't want to rank my team last, and there are other teams with Wordmark logos, and I've ranked them all at the end. Spoiler alert: any team that didn't qualify with an official secondary logo and use a Wordmark, they're all at the bottom. Sorry to those teams, but it's how it had to be. So the Montreal Canadiens, it just says Les Canadiens, and Montreal, like it's whatever. It's text. It's not even interesting text. It's very blocky. It's not stylized. Not that it necessarily should be, but still, it's quite lifeless. So it is last. Number 31, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So no offense to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but this isn't great either. At least there's a bit of an arc there. It adds a slight interest, and hey, you're ahead of my Montreal Canadiens, so I'll give you that. Number 30, the New Jersey Devils. It's very long and linear and horizontal text. There's not a lot of vertical space here, so it's a little awkward. It's hard to put on things, but at least there's some actual dimension and creativity behind it. It's at a bit of an italicized angle. There's a stroke on there, adds a bit of dimension. So at least there's that, but it's definitely better than the Toronto and Montreal font. Let's move on to number 29. That's going to be Calgary. Again, a little bit better here. It's not italicized, but it's bold, it's big, and it's very colorful, obviously. So just says Calgary Flames, nothing special, but it's got the deep red that we love and then the accented yellow from the retro. So as far as Wordmark goes, it's not terrible, but there are better ones, and that's Detroit Red Wings in my opinion. That's number 28, and I think this is all about stylization. Detroit is a very classic and respectful and old school brand, so when I think about their font, here, when I look at this, they nailed it. This is a very 100-year-old font. It looks like something out of a dictionary that would have existed 1,000 years ago or something. It's very fitting for their brand, and I thought it was better than Calgary for that reason. But number 27, that's the Philadelphia Flyers. This is much more modern. Philadelphia at the top in black, italicized, bit of an angle, bit of a movement to it. They're called the Flyers, so there's a lot of play there. Play on words as far as it's not a standstill generic brand. There's creativity you could do with it, and I think it shows that here in the text in Philadelphia, angled a little bit. But then the Flyers text, totally unique font. It's actually disconnected in certain letters. The F, Y, and S totally disconnected, and it's also in a different color. So there is definitely a modern take on this, and I liked it better than Detroit. Let's move on to number 26. So we got the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not a lot of color here, mostly black, but the accent is yellow, and the way that the accent is done, it's provided light shading. It's giving you perspective of where the light is, the way that it's lit from the left. So you've got the left side, the top, and then the inner left all lit. You can tell that the light is coming from the top left and down. That's just giving you the perception of depth of the font, and that's pretty modern. It's not a modern way to design. It's it's been done for 50 plus years or maybe more, but it still feels modern because it's coming off of the page, or off the screen rather. So I like that from Pittsburgh. Number 25. Now we're getting into the actual logos. Okay, the bad part of the video is done with. Let's talk actual logos. We got the Islanders here, and this is obviously subjective video. There is no right or wrong. Your list would be totally different than mine, but I've never personally been a fan of this specific logo. It's only looked good on a couple of things. I like it on hats. Don't mind it on t-shirts. Don't really like it on jerseys. It's creative, but it's still a little bit feels empty to me. It's also very left-weighted. The N is very heavy compared to the Y because of the angle, but the hockey stick aspect is definitely cool. At least it has a hockey element in it. Let's move on to number 24. And that's going to be the Anaheim Ducks. And this is strictly for the reason that it feels very long in the tooth. This logo has, or this variation of the logo, and I'm not talking about the inner logo, I'm talking about the whole thing. This is essentially their shoulder patch. This has existed since maybe mid-2000s era, maybe a little bit before that. And it's a fine logo. There's a lot of circles going on. There's a white circle, there's that beigeish gold circle, a black, an orange, and then a black. So there's a lot of layers going on here as far as coming into the middle. But it just feels dated. And the logo in the middle is amazing. I'm not ranking that specific logo in the middle. That's one of the greatest of all time. But this specific collection of assets and the way that it is very long in the tooth. It needs changed, and for that reason, I kind of ranked it a little bit low. Number 23, Edmonton was just a very, very tricky one. They don't have an official Wordmark logo, and they don't have an official alternate logo, so I had to qualify them by putting a different version of their primary logo, and I didn't want to put it last because it is, it's a nice logo, but I didn't want to put it way up above because it's not technically a secondary logo. It's complicated. It's way more complicated than it needs to be. Every team should just have an official secondary logo, in my opinion. It would make my life easier. But the two-tone version of this, which we see on the jersey, the alternate jersey, is very beautiful. It's maybe not so much on its own. It really does shine on the jersey and with the entire uniform, but orange and blue are always going to be complementary, specifically those shades. So I do like this. It probably should be ranked a little bit higher, but anyways, let's move on. 22, the New York Rangers. So while this is a bit textual, it's an N and a Y and an R for New York Rangers, it has, I really appreciate the stylization here. It almost feels like that middle one is, Lady Liberty holding the torch a little bit, and it's just got some personality to it. I like the rigidity of the R as well, some of the angles that are going on. There's also multiple layers. We got blue, white, and red coming together, and they also all touch each other. So this is a really easy graphic or logo, secondary logo, to apply to things. Whether it's a t-shirt, a hat, a shoulder, it doesn't really matter. It fits well on a lot of things. It's not too it's not too horizontally stretched like the Devils one. It's not too vertically high like maybe the Calgary one's quite high. This one felt like it was a really good sized one. Number 22, the Dallas Stars. This goes right in line with the Anaheim one, although it's not as old. So Dallas did rebrand, and it feels, even though it's not really that old, it kind of feels old. And this logo specifically feels a little bit old to me. It's their shoulder patch, and it's okay, but again, it feels dated like Anaheim. So for that reason, I put it in the 20s. Speaking of 20, number 20, we got Vancouver. This was a bit of a complicated one. They had three primary, secondary logos. What? That doesn't make sense. They had three secondary logos, and I chose the one that I like the most, and I don't really like any of them that much, to be honest, but this was my favorite. It's the hockey stick one. So they've used this on an alternate logo, or alternate jersey rather. They've used this on the shoulder as a shoulder patch. So we're familiar with it. It's very basic. I don't really like it that much for what it is and what it looks like. I like it for maybe more the nostalgia sake of it and the fact that it dates back quite far. Now that kind of goes against what I said about Anaheim and Dallas, where they've been around for a while, and I'm requesting that those be changed, but not so much this one. Things get a pass when they become nostalgic, and since this is so old, it falls in the realm of nostalgia, so it had to be ahead of Anaheim and ahead of Dallas for that reason. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Lightning, kind of again like Dallas and Anaheim, it feels a little bit dated. This is their shoulder patch, essentially, and it's an okay logo. It's just, I think they could do better. It's such a lively brand. They're called the Tampa Bay Lightning. Florida in general is a very interesting state. It is the lightning capital of the United States. Why not have fun with that and make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more aggressive? This feels very Original Six, and they're not an Original Six team. They came into existence in 1992. It even says that in the logo. That's not that long ago. They're a very modern team, so I would like to see a little bit more life from a future, hopefully, brand from them. Number 18, the Ottawa Senators. This is one version of the alternate logo. They have another one that has that wing or whatever on the other side, depending on the shoulder that it goes on. I think it's good. Now, Ottawa isn't necessarily an old team either, but technically they are. They existed a long time ago, but then they've kind of come back. If you don't know the story, it's complicated. Go look it up. But the Ottawa Senators are a nostalgic brand, but aren't at the same time. So this kind of walks the line a little bit. I think it's very acceptable. It's good. It fits their current brand. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's very left-weighted, and I've got the other version, which is very right-weighted. But when you have to change the look of the logo based on what side it's on, that kind of ruins the logo. Just make one that's symmetrical. Number 17, the Colorado Avalanche. Okay, if you know me, if you're a longtime viewer, you know that this would be number one. For whatever reason, I like this, okay? It is my bread and butter. It comes from the provincial flag, or the state flag, rather. Sorry, I'm Canadian. And I just love it. And I shouldn't. It looks like Pac-Man eating a ball. But I understand a lot of people hate this, and they hate when I rank it high. So I've decided to put it in the middle ground and put it 17. But because I did that, I decided to wear Colorado. Number 16, the Chicago Blackhawks. So this is a tricky one because it's not so much like Dallas, and it's not so much like Anaheim, where I feel it's time for a change. I don't necessarily feel like it's time for a change here, but they've used this quite a bit and for a very long time. It does kind of go into the nostalgia category a little bit, and they have different versions of this actual exact same thing, different colorizations, and one has a stroke and one doesn't, and one plays around with a little bit more color and one doesn't. I've chosen one that I like the best. It's a very nice logo. I wouldn't mind seeing something new from Chicago, though. In itself, it feels slightly flat, even though there's a lot going on. It's intended to show something laying on something, and it doesn't really show that. It feels very two-dimensional for a three-dimensional suggestion of placement or objects. So I put it mid-pack. Number 15, the Buffalo Sabres. This was a little tough. I felt like they could do a little bit better, but when I think about this logo, I think it was the Winter Classic or Stadium Series, but this was on there somewhere. And it reminds me of that, and I like that quite a bit. The jersey, it's not symmetrical, which is a bad thing, but the colors are very complementary. So I kind of went back and forth on this one, and then at the end of the day, I decided to put it kind of in the middle ground. Number 14, the Winnipeg Jets. When this first came out, I loved it. The colors are amazing. It feels modern. I like the military appreciation, or the Air Force appreciation, rather. It's got hockey elements, which is great, but it does feel dated at this point. I don't know if it's because of the jerseys or what, and this is, on the shoulder, but I want to see something new from Winnipeg, and I couldn't justify putting it in the last half of the league here. It's 14th, so it's in the top half, but I couldn't justify putting it in the top 10. They need something new. Number 13, the LA Kings. So again, kind of this has been tossed around their brand for a long time. There's been different variations of it, and I felt like it was appropriate to put it in the top 15 because a lot of people love it, and I'm trying to balance my personal choice with some, general opinions out there as well. So I think it does deserve to be in the top 15. It's very intricate. It's a very interesting logo to look at. On the side of busy, for sure, but the colors are nice, even though there's not really that much color. There's gray, there's white, and there's black. Hockey element, they've got the crown. It's fit for a king, so it deserves to be in the top 15, or top 16 rather. Number 12, the Minnesota Wild. Typically, I would not rank a logo like this in the top half of a league, but I've really come to appreciate this logo. It is extremely simplistic. It looks wonderful on a shoulder, and it has some interesting kind of elements. It almost feels gothic in a way because of the design elements at the top and at the bottom. But I like what's going on here. It's very simplistic. It's not overcomplicated. It looks good on merch, whether it's a hat, shirt, jersey, it doesn't matter. It looks good on things. Complementary colors, simple, like it. Number 11, it's a guitar pick. I had to put it in the top 16, the top half. It's clever, but it's very generic at the same time. If you didn't know that it was a guitar pick, you might just think it was a random shape, but it is shaped like a guitar pick because Nashville is Music City, and it's got the stars in there, blue and yellow, very complementary. It looks good on a shoulder. Again, not over complicated. There's a lot going on here. There's stars, there's circles, there's guitar pick shapes, but the best part for me, other than the colors, is the N and the P. I like the stylization there, and they also have that as a secondary logo as well officially, and I just chose this one because I like this more, but the N and the P does exist by itself. Number 10, the Boston Bruins. So I might get a little bit of heat here as a Canadiens fan putting the Boston Bruins in the top 10, but objectively, this is a very nice logo. It looked good on the Reebok version of the alternate jersey I think they used in those years. It looks good as a shoulder patch, and the bear actually has aggression and intention in his eyes. He looks menacing. It looks like he's going to bring you some pain. And in hockey, you want to bring the pain, okay? You want to lay the body. And that bear looks like he wants to lay the body and put someone on the ice and call it a day. But it's so much better than the meth bear. Like, look, the meth bear on the reverse retro, it's a creature of its own. It's a meme, and I love it. I appreciate it. But it's not going to scare anyone. It's in the sense that it looks angry. It's going to scare some people, but not for the right reasons. That bear looks good. The shape that it's all contained in is great. It's unique. The Boston font back there looks good. It's a little bit squished on the B and the N, but it still looks very, very good, and I like it a lot. And objectively, I gotta like this logo regardless if I'm a Habs fan or not. Number 9, the Florida Panthers. While I don't like the disconnection with this logo with the Panthers, and there's a different version that says Florida depending on the shoulder or the jersey rather, or the arm and jersey. The disconnected factor is the negative thing, but everything else is positive. Colors are lovely. The integration of the Panther into the state flag on the bottom graphic is great. It's also extremely unique. And for that reason, I don't like the disconnected factor, but it also makes it unique at the same time. So I have to take away some love, but I got to give some love as well for that reason. And I decided to put it in the top 10. And you guys know I love flags as well. So number 8, St. Louis. We've got the iconic city piece in the background. I've never been to St. Louis, but I would love to go. I would love to visit that and obviously take pictures. Colors, again, complementary. Yellow and blue, very good. Got the primary logo in there, just a little bit of a hint in the middle. The font is, I think, applicable to their brand and maybe the city and the age of the team. But the coolest thing I think that gets overlooked a little bit with this logo is the change in lighting or dimension in the middle yellow circle, because halfway up on each side here, it switches, it mirrors, and that gives it some lighting aspect. It gives it a bit of, it makes it look 3D. It makes like this, the outer ring look 3D, and that's pretty cool. That gets unnoticed a lot with this logo, and I like it. I mean, I like the logo. I don't like that it gets unmentioned. Number 7, the Seattle Kraken. While this is an extremely simplistic logo, it's perfect. A lot of teams overcomplicate things, and I'm not just talking about NHL teams. I'm talking about sports branding in general, whether it's a primary or an alternate logo. A lot of times you can see a lot of overcomplicated logos, and design gets a little bit too heavy. They played it really simple here, and not only is it simple, it has city aspects. You can see the Space Needle in there, and there's actual lighting. Look at the way that it's colorized. You can see, how it's lit from the right-hand side coming to the left, the menacing shadow along the left. It's the Kraken. There's got to be a bit of a dark, mysterious section here. It looks good on the jersey. It looks good in general, and it also is applicable as, an anchor. So it's pretty cool. Number 6, the Carolina Hurricanes had to be in the top 10. Had to be. Almost cracked the top 5 for me, but the hockey element in there with the stick, using that as a flagpole for those warning flags, and the negative space, I'm told, between the flags is an outline of one of the Carolinas. I don't remember which one, but love it. Like, this is an amazing logo. It looks great on the shoulder. Big love for this. Number 5, the Arizona Coyotes. This gets complicated because technically the old primary logo from last year before Kachina came back officially, technically that is listed from the NHL as their secondary logo, but so is this. I didn't want to choose a previous primary logo. That felt like cheating. So although I like that one more, I felt like this new alternate Kachina logo, or variation of kind of their brand of it made more sense for this video because they're going with the Kachina brand now, home and away. A lot of intricacies here, a lot of colors, but it works perfectly with their branding. It's busy, but it's supposed to be busy. That's the stylization intended here. And it looks good on a logo, or it looks good on a logo. Obviously, that didn't make sense. It looks good on a hat, looks good on a jersey, it looks good on all the things. So a big love for this one as well. Number 4, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I have to say one word, and that I could probably move on. Cannon. You put the cannon in there, and I'm going to like it. Columbus is a very new team, okay? They've existed for, I think, less than 30 years now. They feel very old school. They feel like they could be an original six team. They've kind of, they've worked in some sparkle fleck and some of their things, like the shoulder patch. And, the reverse retro's got some in there as well, which is very modern. But their brand, the Blue Jackets, they're intended to look old. They're representing, the Civil War era, and a lot of their graphical assets imply that. Their logo, which is a shout out to the colors of Ohio and maybe the American flag a little bit, the star that's in there, the very old school font, and obviously the cannon. The cannon's amazing. It's an icon piece to their franchise. Every time they score in a home game, that baby lights off and makes a big crack and a big sound, and I love the cannon. Never been to Ohio, never been to a Blue Jackets game, but would love to go, and I would love to hear that cannon. We put a cannon in there, it's going to be in the top 5, guys. That's just how it rolls. Number 3, one of the best logos in professional sports, regardless of hockey, is this Washington Capitals logo. Number 1, it's symmetrical, other than the head, but the head is such a small piece to the logo. It's important, but it's so small that it doesn't matter that it's not symmetrical. The wings are amazing. Colors are very complementary within their brand, but the negative space in the bottom of the eagle is the top of the Capitol building. And a lot of people don't see that when they first look at the logo. They see the eagle, they see the colors. They're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But the negative space is probably the best thing about this logo. And then you can really start to appreciate the design that went into this. And this would look so good on the front of a jersey. I hope they bring it there sometime. Number 2, I put Vegas. I had to. I love this logo. When they first came out with the Vegas brand, I didn't like the primary, but I loved this one, and I'm so glad that they put it on the reverse retro. I don't love the reverse retro. I have it. I appreciate it, but the logo itself is the bread and butter for me in their brand. It's aggressive. You've got swords in there. You've got a bit of a star. The red just pops out. So I'm a really, really big fan of this. It's also symmetrical. I'm a big fan of symmetrical things if you didn't know. So I like this one a lot. Number 1, if you've been doing your process of elimination, you know who it is. It's the San Jose Sharks. Now, I will say that I am a Sharks fan. They are my second favorite team, but objectively, this is not why I'm ranking them first. If you're being objective, maybe you're an Anaheim fan, or maybe you're a Vegas fan and you hate the San Jose Sharks. Don't be biased, okay? Be objective and look at this completely objectively for the logo for what it is. Don't let any bias creep in. This logo is unbelievable. From the colors being very complementary to the black to the green, teal, the teal to the orange, it just looks so good. There's dimension, there's aggression, there's subtle little details in here. It's in the basic shape of a triangle with the general body, which represents the Bay Area. Along the bottom, there's an S for San Jose or potentially Sharks or both. And it's a really cool logo in general. Like it's perfect. It's literally perfect in every aspect. The shape, the colors, the subtle little details all over the place in it. It's perfect. So objectively and not biasedly, this has to be my number 1. I suspect it would be a number 1 for a lot of others as well if they're truly being objective and not biased. But regardless of whether it's your number 1 or number 32, it doesn't matter to me. There is no right or wrong, like I said earlier. And on that note, I would love to hear what your favorite secondary logo, or your even if it's not the Wordmark one, if it's a different one, whatever. Would love to hear from any of the side logos in the NHL from the teams, not the primaries, any of the side ones. Text one of the Vancouver ones. There's 3 of them. It doesn't have to be the one that I chose. Love to hear from you. So if you have a couple minutes, please leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. I read all the comments. I respond to as many as I can, or as many that, if you ask a question, I really try and respond if I have time, but I read them all. I appreciate you guys. And like I said at the beginning, there's over 65% of returning viewers are not subscribed. If you made it to this point in the video, you got to hit the subscribe button. And if you truly do not want to, I understand, but I would love to hear from you as to why maybe you don't want to hit the subscribe button. I'm always looking to improve, so if there's a specific reason where you don't want to see my face again, let me know down below in the comment section as well. You're not going to offend me. I'm really looking forward to, I'm really open to feedback and improving the channel, improving the production quality, improving the delivery. So we'd love to hear from you, even if it's a negative comment. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hit the like button if you did like this video, share it around, send it to a friend, a family member. And yeah, hope you're having a great time. I'll talk to you guys in the future video. Adios.